So this is Titus chapter 3, the scripture for the 12th of October. Now, just as the church is called to maintain good order internally, so too are we as Christians called to work within the system, the ordered system, externally. It can be tempting to want to burn down institutionally corrupt agencies, in a manner of speaking, of course. I don't condone this, but it can be tempting to want to just tear down stuff that isn't working, or, to tear down institutionally corrupt governments. But what God directs us to do through Paul's instruction to Titus is to work within the systems of this world. And regardless of where we are in the 21st century world, probably our form of government that we are being ruled under is different from the government that Paul was under. And it's probably kinder to some degree. The government Paul was under was a pretty tyrannical monarchy. The Rome was a republic, sure, but it had a Caesar, right? A ruler over it. And so not to diminish some of the suffering that may be coming to you at the hands of your government, wherever you may be, but know that what Paul's giving, the instructions Paul's giving Titus, are in a hostile situation. Now, working within the systems of this world, for those of us in America, which is where I'm located, it means to vote. It means to protest to your heart's content. But it also means to offer the benefit of the doubt to those that you're protesting as individuals, right? As Paul says, we are called to show every courtesy to everyone. The church isn't about maintaining ideological purity. That's not what Jesus Christ came for. Rather, the church is willing to compromise and to accommodate nearly anything which allows the gospel to spread and people to be saved. Now, verses 3 through 7, it's an incredibly dense section. It takes the main themes of Romans 5 through 8 and really just kind of smashes them all together. If you're looking for a good starter point of memorizing scripture, you could do a lot worse than Titus 3, 4 through 7, right? Or 3 through 7. This is a very dense section that has a ton of theology in it. It'll give you a ton of bang for your buck, in other words. So these passages give a theological treatment of sin, of grace, baptism, of relationships within the Trinity, of justification, of redemption. Basically, if you want a theological treatment of something, these verses have it. Now, I find it funny here because Paul calls for us to insist on these, right after saying to show every courtesy to everyone. We're supposed to hold this in balance while also maintaining a spirit of gentleness and humility, remembering that we also were in bondage to sin at one point. I think that Paul walks a really fine line here. I think on the one hand, difference and distinction in doctrine is to be expected from those who are new members in the church or new participants within the church community. However, on the other hand, church leaders must walk in lockstep on certain things. We can't have just a ton of different doctrines or faiths in and among our church leaders. There's got to be something that unites us and points us together towards something. Now, we see Paul again here, just like in chapter 1, having very little patience for those who obstruct good teaching. He doesn't want to give time to stupid controversies. His words, right? Not mine. I think that these are the people, as we talked about a little bit before, these are the people who are repeat offenders, who dismiss the authority of the church and think that they know best, even when church leaders have over and over again spoken in opposition to them. Paul insists that Timothy give them a couple chances, but then after those 3 chances to cut bait. Whether that means not to engage with them anymore, whether that means to, as Jesus says in Matthew 18, think of them as a Pharisee and a tax collector, as a Gentile and a tax collector outside of the community. Paul's not quite clear here. But what he is pretty clear about is that there are people who aren't worth your time. And this is wise advice, I think, for us as well. Social media has given us opportunities to discuss topics with nearly anyone, anywhere. And while there's much we can learn and much that we can talk about, there are voices we need to filter out for our health and for theirs. Paul names several traveling companions in the closing of this letter, and few of these are mentioned elsewhere. Tychicus and Apollos are the exceptions. They are mentioned elsewhere, I think in 2 Timothy as well. However, Paul expects them to be well taken care of, even if people don't know them well. Now I wonder, what doctrine do you need to brush up on? That's all for Titus chapter 3. Tomorrow, the 13th, we'll be looking at Hebrews chapter 1. May God bless you in your reading of Scripture.